We have some guest speakers from DataWORKS that are going to do a presentation.
Welcome. My name is Joel at DataWORKS, and we are here for our fantastic Demystify Common Core workshop. And it's really nice because I asked John Hollingsworth, the author of Explicit Direct Instruction, to join us. John, can you wave to the camera and say hi?
Yeah, I'm here also.
Yeah, you did a good. We're off to a good start. Today, as we're speaking about California Common Core came out to address a critical question. Are all our students everywhere in the country having the same access to education? Homeschool, hybrid, public, charter, whatever. Will they produce a successful and effective graduate? Common Core is the measuring stick. Common Core is the measuring stick that provides us that answer. Now, parents, why should I care about this? Why does it matter to you? Well, that's easy. We have goals for ourselves and we have goals for our kids and students, don't we? Common Core sets the goals for us to hit. And like good parents, we want to go beyond that. And John, I would like you to share your screen and walk us into Common Core. Let's go take a look.
So we have a website called Educeri, EDUCERI.com. It's right here. We have about 1,500 lessons, K to 12. It's very inexpensive. It's $7 a month per teacher. There's a few free lessons. But we also have standards in there. And you can see the grade level here. And you asked for 4th and 6th. Let's pick, I'm going to pick 6th grade ELA right here, 6th grade English Language Arts. Now, I have a few general thoughts about Common Core, and then we'll look up some specific ones as we go.
Right.
So what we did at DataWORKS is we went through the standards. We actually made learning objectives. The learning objective is the name of what you're teaching right now. Today, we will multiply fractions. Today, we will identify character traits in literature. That's what you're doing right now. And one of the focuses that we're teaching a concept from a standard, and we're not just teaching a worksheet. Joel, you remember we've been in about 35,000 classrooms, and sometimes the teachers are just doing the worksheet and they don't really quite understand what they're teaching or answering questions, but they're not teaching at a bigger level, at a conceptual level. So let's go over a couple of other characteristics of the standards if you're going to actually look at standards. Here's I think this is a 3rd grade reading informational text. And this is one thing you really need to be aware of, the difference between informational text and literature, which is stories. The focus now on school, especially by 4th and 5th and 6th grade, is that we're starting to move to more informational text. That's expository text, nonfiction, and we should be reading that. And here's an example. This happens to be from 3rd grade right here. Describe relationships between a series of historical events, scientific ideas or concepts, or steps in a technical procedure in text, using language that pertains to time, sequence, and cause and effect. That sounds pretty complicated, but if you actually just look at what you're supposed to be doing is what time sequence in text. That could be history in 1776 and 1777. So it'll be what? A time sequence. Now, just sequential orders like first, then, next, afterwards. Now, by 6th grade, you should be using some other words, subsequently to blank, previously something happened. So this means you have to have text that's written in sequential order or cause and effect or time order, and you're analyzing it for the text and using the text structure. So this would be 3 examples here. Here's another one that's interesting. Measure angles in whole number degrees using a protractor. So that means physically, can you measure? Remember, the protractor usually has 0. Remember, Joel, 0 to 180 in 2 directions, because you got to teach which way you're reading. Okay. Then it says sketch angles of specified measure. So if it says sketch me 45 degrees, do you know right away what 45 degrees looks like? And here's one, and Jennifer, you need to get this too. Do you see where it says specified measure? You need to use that type of language in your teaching at home. Don't get to what we call kiddie language or kid-friendly language. You need to use words. We're taking a measure. The specified one is the one we're looking at. Okay, I want you to sketch an angle. Don't use the word draw an angle. Use the word sketch and then define the word sketch.
So right now, John, you're just showing us little examples of different types of standards, right? Is that what I'm saying?
This really doesn't matter what grade level it is. I'm saying you need to look at the vocabulary that's in there, and you need to look at the multiple things that are in one thing. Now, a book may just have it already there. There'll be sketching, measure angles, but you may not have read the standards, but you need to know, usually you have to go both directions. Can you draw an angle and can you read an angle? All right, let's look at one more thing down here. And this one is going to come up all the time. When you do area is length times width. Okay, and usually we have a worksheet with a bunch of numbers, 4, 5, 2, 7, 8, 9, and the students are just multiplying those numbers together with really not knowing area. Common Core says, if I have a room that's 20 square feet and it's 5 feet wide, how long is the room? Do you see that's reverse logic? You're not just doing length times width is area, you're taking area plus a length to go back and find the width. This would also be the case for circumference. The circumference of a circle is 25, and go back and calculate the radius. And same thing for area. So this is one thing, and Jennifer should write this down. The Common Core very specifically says do all the variations of like a 3-step formula. Area, perimeter, any of these simple equations go backwards, and I can guarantee you the test question will almost always be one of those backwards questions. All right, Joel, I think I've given a couple things right here, right now, right? For math, I said check all of them. I said we should use vocabulary. I talked about using the vocabulary, look at the vocabulary in the standards and make sure you're using that vocabulary. I mean teaching the vocabulary, not just using it, but teaching it. So from the audience, let's see if we can have a comment right now, something we've learned so far just from this one page. Okay, so Jennifer, I'm going to ask you, can you tell me something you heard me talk about that maybe you hadn't thought before or might have an implication for teaching at home?
How important vocabulary is with math, because they could understand the concept but not have the vocabulary.
Yeah, and I just taught math in South Carolina last, 3 days ago. I was in South Carolina doing demo lessons for schools using some of these ideas I'm talking about here. And the students are not used to talking with the language. They say 6. No, I want 6 inches. I want the perimeter of the polygon is 6. The operation is subtraction because. So that's the main thing we're going to talk about a lot is the vocabulary. In a minute, we'll talk about using those in complete sentences that the kids talk in math or anything else. You should say the next sequence in this text or the next thing that occurs or something previously, that vocabulary and complete sentences. Okay, let's go on to the next page. Sometimes the standards actually tell you the definition inside the standard if you're not sure. But quite often, if you teach something like area, you need to look up and have what we call a written bulletproof definition. Anything you teach, you need a written definition. A past tense verb is, a present tense verb is, a future tense verb is. And this is one of the philosophies in Common Core, that the students read what they're being taught. Not just you telling them as the teacher or the parent. They have to read those definitions because we're trying to support reading fluency all the time without actually teaching reading fluency, but they're going to read inside a lesson at the same time. Okay, one more little one right there. I'm just going to look at this right here. Relative measurements, we're talking about measuring, and then look what they give. Kilometers, meters, centimeters, okay, those would be distance. Kilograms and grams would be mass or weight, pounds and ounces, liters, milliliters, hours, minutes, and seconds. So you need to make sure you're using all the measurement units. In the United States, we tend not to use the metric so much, but the testing could certainly have it later on. So students, if you're doing a standard like this on measurement, or any standard that's got area and volume and length in it, make sure you're using all the different units where you go. Okay, so I did say a couple of important things in here. I said we need to define what past tense is. We need to define what scientific notation is. So whatever we're teaching, we don't just say, well, you know what it means. We need basically a written definition, Okay, I'm going to ask you, Joel, what's something interesting you learned off of this page?
Oh, I was about to say, thank you, John. I was about to share something with you. I'm like, okay, so the days of, oh, we're doing math today. That's gone. Or we're going to do English now. No. You have today. We're going to sit down and we're going to we will determine what a past tense verb is.
Right.
Looking at my standard here, I know what I'm going to be doing today.
The students should know what they're doing too. They should know, oh, we're writing numbers in scientific notation.
So when our parents are at home and they're opening up the workbook, they're beginning their daily presentation. It never should be, we're going to be working on page 5 math today. Right. It should be like, I'm going to read it ahead of time and just look and say, okay, we're going to be doing division by a multiple digit division or something
Right.
academic like that. They have to announce it out loud. And do
Yeah.
you want the students to announce it too? Is that what you said as well?
The students need to be able to read the words. I've seen students that cannot pronounce the words in the lesson, much less read them. So they need to be able to taught how to say the new big words and then how to read them also. And Joel, these might show up later on tests and quizzes, these words.
Uh-huh.
And I think this is a good one right here. It says determine. We don't say figure out. We're going to determine fractions. We're not going to figure them out. So we should be using that. Joel, can you determine the fraction in problem number 1? Or I'm going to determine this fraction over here. And this is how you determine or figure out fractions. Okay.
Right. One of the things I remember Dr. Sylvia Barra saying about this is sometimes we love our kids to ignorance. So we would say something like, hey guys, today we're going to figure out fractions. And that's it. We stop there because, I want to make sure that they relate. But instead, I probably should predefine and pre-state those kind of thoughts. So yeah, I'm with you on that. So are we still, John, you just showed us examples so far. We haven't actually dived into what a standard is yet.
Okay, this is 6th grade right here.
Can you walk us through what that standard is from California and what we're doing by pulling out a learning objective or a learning goal or a learning target? Can you walk us through that and how those examples work?
This is the whole standard right here. So this is reading literature. This is number 6.4. And then in DataWORKS, we did 6.4, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. These are the standards that are actually over here. Determine the meanings of words and phrases as they're used in text, including figurative and connotative. So figurative language is our first thing. Those are similes and metaphors. John is as tall as a giraffe. It's raining cats and dogs. So that's figurative language. I could eat the whole refrigerator. I'm so hungry. That's exaggerated statements. Hyperbole. That's it. So, there's an example. We got to teach how to read and pronounce the word hyperbole. So this is one of the standards, the figurative meaning. Connotating is that feelings that come with the word. I mean, the word gang used to be a simple word, like just meant a group of people. And now gang is almost associated with criminals, criminal activity, gang. That's the connotation of it. Okay. Word choice, that's usually analyzing text. Why would we use certain words to get it off? And how word choice affects tone, which is the attitude towards the reader and the listener and stuff. So these are all words to be defined: figurative meaning, connotative meaning, tone, and then give examples of how that works. Like, look, the word gorgeous as opposed to pretty. So why did the author put those words here and analyze that? So these are the type of things students are going to be working on.
John, when I'm looking at these standards here, I got to tell you, it seems a little daunting, doesn't it? Because it's analyze how a particular sentence, chapter, scene, or stanza fits into the overall structure of text and contributes to the development of the theme, setting, and plot. That seems like a mouthful of stuff. The learning objectives, and I know sometimes we call them learning goals or learning targets. Can you kind of explain to us the logic of how you extrapolate that?
Well, if you're looking at 5.1, how a sentence or chapter contributes to the development of theme, setting, or plot, usually I can say it's almost tested, like, why did the author include that sentence? Or why is that in? And I saw that on a test one time, and the answer was to show the character was humorous, right? To show his personality trait of being humorous. So that would be to identify something a character did, okay? But if it's a theme, remember, theme is coming of age, good versus evil, that type of stuff. So why did the author add this part in here to convey his idea of the theme? And students need to be able to recognize and explain that. Or why is this sentence here? It's putting the setting, it's showing where we are so that people understand this is a flashback, it's happening a different set of time or something. Right. So that's the type of questions that could be there. And you said they're not recall questions. They're not going to say, where is the setting? That maybe 1st grade we could do that, but by 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, the who, what, where questions is way off. It's way below grade level. We're doing more sophisticated things. And
then, John, just to remind everybody who's listening into the webinar or watching it at a later time, hopefully they don't hit fast forward like 22 minutes. But we are going to do a lesson. We are going to do a lesson delivery example of how it would be with you and your child, you and your student,
right,
working together with our engagement norms using that that model, right? We have to go beyond recall today. All right, keep going, John.
I think we should jump to some instructional practices right here,
Yeah.
and then let me teach a little bit of a lesson, but I want to lay some groundwork for some things we need to do first.